So one of the things I want to ask you is, um, I think like so before we got on, or I had sent you some questions, and one of the things that I had asked you is like, as a sound designer, what do you think is the most important skill to learn or to master? And if I'm not mistaken, I think you said something like it's being able to or to learn to listen, which I think is obviously very important. But I was hoping maybe you could like kind of define that for us. Like, what do you mean by listening, and how can you or whoever's listening to this show, if they're like, okay, I'm gonna practice and learn to listen better. Like, how do you do that?
How? Oh man. I'm, so I think listening is so important because as a listener, you are no longer trying to, there's always a perspective of listening, right? And
Yeah.
that perspective is either, are you listening as the sound designer? Or are you listening as the director who might be listening to your sound effect for the first time? Are you listening as an audience member? Are you listening as an audience member who may have been forced to come to this show by, their kids who really wanted to see this show? Or are you coming in as an audience member who is super engaged with the show and is listening to everything, right? And I also have to listen as somebody who hasn't heard the show at all, right? And so every single time we do this performance, I have to try to reset my internal listening, memory clock and say, okay, I need to come at, this with, tabula rasa, a fresh mind. I need to listen to the show like it's the first time I'm ever seeing this show. We've been doing this show for 6 weeks straight. I can't, and it's really hard. Right. But every single but you do things like, okay, I'm going to sit in a different seat today, or I'm going to sit in the seat that the critic is going to sit in, or I'm going to go sit in the back where are the cheap seats, right? And my job is to try to make all these places sound the same, but I have to make all these experiences unique and personal to the person sitting in the seat next to them.
Interesting. So are you you're basically putting yourself in the shoe of somebody else and trying to hear from their perspective. So it's kind of like you're changing your mindset basically of how you're going to listen to a sound. Is that right?
Yeah. And but that's just one type of listening, listening from a new perspective of the fresh ear idea, how to come into an area with a set of fresh ears. But when it comes to also being an active listener, you have to be an active listener in a room full of collaborators. You have to know what they're bringing to the table as well. And then you have to listen to them, because if you as a sound designer don't merge your sound design with all the other design disciplines and all the other crafts on stage and different acting techniques all the different actors will bring, then you just stick out like a sore thumb. Right. So you need to also listen to your collaborators and know how are you going to kind of create this like harmony between all the different elements that are being put into this pot